Braves starting pitchers have another bad outing, leading to a series split with the Pittsburgh Pirates in Pittsburgh and another ugly game for the Atlanta Braves starting staff. We'll talk about that. Also go through the league leaders on this Through the League Thursday segment. All that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on Twitter at ShortstopBall. Also, make sure you check out my written work over at BravesToday.com. Make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. We'll have our mailbag episode on Friday, so get ready to submit your questions to that. Again, I look at the questions that are submitted on Twitter to that post, so I know a lot of you send me questions in a lot of different places. I try to include those as well when I remember, but mostly I'm looking to answer those questions from the tweet that I send out from LockedOn_Braves. So make sure you check that out. Probably post that on Thursday evening. Make sure you follow the podcast on YouTube. Subscribe there if you haven't already. I have over 6,500 subscribers, so I really appreciate all the support there. You're watching this video, hit that like button to help spread the love and share the episode with a lot of others who will see that episode just because you liked it. So I really do and appreciate it when you do that. And thanks so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. I know I owe some shout outs to people out there letting me know that you're an everydayer. Please continue to do that. Promise I'll get to you, but thank you so much for letting me know that you watch this podcast each and every day. It does mean a ton to me every time I hear that. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, on today's episode, we're going to recap the last two games in Pittsburgh, and then we're going to go through our Through the League Thursday segment and then set you up for the weekend in New York, where it's going to be a tough series for the Braves, but probably for different reasons than what we initially thought when the season began. We'll get into all of that later. Let's start with Thursday's game, a 6-5 win over the Pirates. You had Max Fried, a short outing, only went 4 innings, as I think that's just more because the Braves are still trying to limit his work as he comes back from injury. Don't want to push him too far, which is understandable. He was probably getting close to his pitch limit in that game, and probably didn't want to start him in an inning unless they felt like he could finish it before reaching whatever that pitch count was. So unfortunately, that 4th inning kind of got away from him, as innings have gotten away from Braves pitchers a lot here lately, Brave starters in particular. You had, Arcia's error didn't go down as an error. I felt it was an error. Some of you thought it was the most difficult play of all time and that no shortstops make that. I disagree wholeheartedly. I think Arcia himself makes that play 90 to 95% of the time. He just couldn't get the ball out of his glove on the transfer. If he does that, he makes the out pretty easily. Fried gets out of that inning, likely only giving up the 1 run. But that's been the case here lately for Brave starters. And I'll just go ahead and get into it because similar thing happened to Bryce Elder on Thursday. And again, the same thing has happened to a lot of Brave starters here over this stretch that they are on here lately. It's just one thing doesn't go their way. It's compounded by some errors, some mistakes that the Braves make. And next thing you know, they're giving up a crooked number. You look at Elder's outing on Thursday, kind of cruising along there, but gets into a little bit of trouble. You have that hit batter that shouldn't have been a hit batter. It should have been a called strike, or at least it was a borderline called strike pitch. But he goes down as a hit by pitch. Runner gets on base. He walks the next batter. You got the play at home where the runner's initially called out. I don't know how you overturn that based on all the angles that we saw. And if it takes you as long as it did to try to figure that out in the replay, it's got to be call stands. Maybe he does get that hand in there before the tag comes, but that's got to be a call stands. But it doesn't go the Braves' way. And they ended up giving up 3 runs in the inning. It's been like that these last 6 games where it's, a call doesn't go the Braves' way. A ball is just fair, an error, something happens, and then the Braves, make a mental mistake, whether it is an error, a hit batter, a walk. They're not helping themselves, but it's also just like all these little things that are going against the Braves, and they're not able to just get past that. And I think that's what's so frustrating about the starting rotation right now is that things aren't going to go your way sometimes in a game. A call's not going to go your way. A play's not going to get made behind you. You got to flush that and get the next guy out. And this pitching staff is not doing that right now. Instead of doing that, they're walking the next batter or hitting the next batter and making matters even worse. And that's what's so frustrating about this stretch. You look at the last 6 games now. The Braves have had innings, Braves starters have had innings where they give up 5 runs, 3 runs, 6 runs, 3 runs, 4 runs, and 3 runs. When they're making these mistakes and they're having these innings, it's not just a run or 2. They're giving up 3 runs or more in the last 6 games. That's just that's crazy. I mean, it's such a bad stretch that the Braves starters are on right now. Good thing is a lot of these things can be corrected. The walks can be corrected. Maybe not for Charlie Morton, something he struggles with, walking, hitting batters. It's been a problem for him all year long. He has the dominant stuff to somewhat overcome that. The mental mistakes, again, not plays that are just errors, but plays that just aren't being made. Even look at the play on Thursday. Riley had a chance to cut down a player at home. He couldn't get the ball out of his glove. Would have been a tough play. Might have been the best decision just to go to first there either way. But still, it's just like these little things. Olsen not making a play the other day. The hit by pitch that shouldn't have been a hit by pitch. The call being overturned at home is just like these little things. And it makes the inning unravel. And instead of just allowing a run or 2, they're allowing 3, 4, 5, 6 runs in an inning. All this stuff can be cleaned up, though, for the most part. And, you can't do anything about the calls that go against you. Some close calls. I know Fried had a close call just at the bottom of the zone that didn't go his way the other night. Close calls, umpires make mistakes. You can't do anything about that. But again, the mental errors, Strider not cutting down the runner at third base when he had an opportunity, Arcia not making the play, the ball getting stuck in his glove, stuff like that. Those are things that you can improve on, that you can do better on going forward. So it's been a crazy week for Braves starters, and just, again, these huge innings that they're giving up. I still believe a lot of that can be corrected. Now, these pitchers haven't been great, and again, they really hurt themselves in it, mostly with the walks, and they certainly have to clean that up, but I think it's something that they're capable of cleaning up. So I wanted to spend a lot of time there talking about the starting pitching, because I know that's been the big issue here lately for the Atlanta Braves. I documented it really since go back even to the start of June. They've been a bottom 10 pitching staff in terms of ERA. So it's something that they got to get figured out, do a better job of. I still think that they can. And again, I think the errors that they're making, both mental errors, not making the right plays, walking batters, I still believe these are all things that can be corrected. But just this stretch they're on right now, these past 6 games, starter not, you had Bryce Elder finally worked into the 6th inning on Thursday. Probably shouldn't have. And if the bullpen is fresh and you haven't had this week of just disastrous starts, he's probably out of there after 5 innings. And we're thinking, okay, well, that's a solid start, especially with what's happened here lately. You'll take it. But instead, you send him back out there for the 6th, gives up 2 more runs, and suddenly it looks like another disastrous start for a Brave starter. You end up losing the game. And that's just because the bullpen's been taxed because of these short starts. So, again, they'll get through this. It's just been a really wild week for Braves pitchers, and some of these innings they've had that have just completely unraveled on them. The offensive side of things, I mean, again, there's moments they could have done more and scored more. This is not on the Braves. They had 51 hits in a 4-game series. 51 hits. They had over 10 hits in each game. That is just absurd. I mean, it's incredible to think about, really. 51 hits in a 4-game series. That's just insane. This offense is so good. Fortunately, Acuna was back in last night's game, had 3 hits in that game, had a couple more hits on Thursday as well, had an RBI hit in the 9th inning to give the Braves hope there to get the tying run to the plate. But unfortunately, Riley, Olsen weren't able to come down, or Ozzie, who struck out as well, probably swinging at ball 4, but weren't able to come through there. Matt Olson strikes out again on a pitch that's borderline top of the zone. Alan Porter, not my favorite home plate umpire in the world, but still close pitch, good at bat there by Olsen, but a tough call on him to end the game. But this offense, again, it's not the problem. They're doing their job. Riley had a bunch of hits in this series. Everybody had a bunch of hits in this series. The offense is not the issue in this one. Kevin Pillar got the start on Thursday going up against the lefty, struck out a lot, looked terrible. I'm going to follow up the argument I had the other day for why I think Kevin Pillar should start, and I said it in that, so I want to be very clear. It has nothing to do with his offense. I've been very clear about the fact that Eddie Rosario is the better offensive option, but it has more to do with his defense. And you saw it in the game on Thursday. I mean, it was a great throw to home. It was offline, but again, almost gets that play. He gets that play. And, it's a big momentum shift in that inning. But even the fact he was able to run down and get to that ball, maybe Eddie gets to it. He probably does. But the whole argument with Pilar has nothing to do with his offense. It's all about the defense and what he gives you out there for the Braves. But rough day for him at the plate as he gets a rare start. But this offense, again, they're doing their job. The bullpen, for the most part, is doing their job. Brad Hand had a bad day on Thursday. I said when they traded for him, when you bring him in, he's got to be facing lefties. He just can't get out righties. Bullpen decisions are tough right now because everybody's taxed. Everybody's overworked because of the short starts that the starting pitching has had. But after you walked the batter to face a lefty in Sawinski, he gets him out on a questionable strike 3 as well. You just can't let him face a righty at that point. You do. He gets the hit, and it's crushing. You're almost out of it. And then first pitch to the righty, pitch right down the middle. He hammers it in the right center gap for an RBI, and Pirates get another add-on run there. That was just a huge blow. Again, I don't really blame Snitker. I don't blame Snitker for sending Elder back out there for the 6th with what's happened here lately. I don't blame him for leaving Hand in there. It's just the situation that the Braves pitching staff is in right now. It's tough. But certainly you can see with Brad Hand, he's got to be facing lefties. He can't get righties out. Can still dominate against lefties, but just can't be facing righties right now. He just didn't look like he had it today either. Controls kind of all over the place. But for the most part, bullpen was really good in this series, and that's great to see. Now just got to get the starting pitching going. The offense is going. Bullpen's looking really good. Get that starting pitching going, and then this team is back to firing on all cylinders and being the best team in baseball again. And I still think they can get there. I know this stretch has been pretty rough for the starting rotation, but I believe that they will get there. Next, we'll take a look through the league on our Through the League Thursday segment, see where the Braves stand, still in a really good position in the National League East. And I'll also give you my leaders for the major awards in the season right now with just 2 months left. We'll discuss all that next. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful, and it's not when you use Gametime. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. I've used Gametime a couple of times myself this year, going to Braves game. It's been a great experience. I love that they show you your tickets before you purchase them. I always do that and know what my view is going to look like. They also have flash sales at their last minute, so you can get great deals there. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Both times I've used Gametime this year, it's been at the last minute, and it's been, again, very easy to do. They also have the Gametime guarantee, which means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Braves will start a series in New York on Friday. Got a 4-game series coming up against the Mets. We thought that series would look a lot different at the beginning of the year, but the Mets are going to give it their all. That start at 7:10 p.m. Eastern on a Friday night. Catch every pitch of the Braves hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. All right, we'll get into our Through the League Thursday segment here. I'm going to be doing this one on the fly as I didn't get a chance to put my notes together here. So give me a little bit of grace here as I look some of this stuff up here. But starting in the NL East, the Braves are 72-41. These are Thursday afternoons. This is after the Braves game Thursday afternoon. 72-41, 10 games ahead of the Phillies, who are 63-52, playing good baseball here lately. Marlins are 60-56. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They're on a bit of a slide, but they have won 2 in a row. The Mets, who the Braves are about to face off, they're 10 games under 500 now. They're 3-7, and their last 10 games been struggling since selling off everything at the All-Star break. And then the Nats, 50-65, 23 games back. So pretty crazy that the Mets are 20.5 games back. The Nationals are 23 games back. They are much closer to each other than you thought would be at the beginning of the season. But those are your NL East standings. Braves still in really good shape there despite their post-All-Star break struggles. You go through the rest of the league. The Baltimore Orioles are 2.5 games up on the Rays, In the AL East, the Twins are 4 games up on the Guardians. In the AL Central, they're starting to create a little breathing room there as the Twins are 6-4 in their last 10, and the Guardians are 3-7 in their last 10 games. The Rangers are 2.5 games up on the Astros in the AL West. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. Astros are 7-3. The Mariners are 9-1 as they're on a 7-game win streak. They are now 62-52, still 5.5 games out in the AL West. And the Angels, the poor Angels, man, 3-7 in their last 10, 58-58, 10.5 games back in the division. And they have been losing in horrible fashion here lately. I just feel it for that franchise, that fan base. It has been rough over there lately. In the NL Central, the Brewers now up 2.5 games on the Cubs and the Reds. Reds just 2-8 in their last 10 games. We just faced the Cubs. You know how hot they are right now. They're 6-4 in their last 10 games, making a lot of ground there. They have a plus 66 run differential, the only team in that division with a positive run differential. And the NL West, the Dodgers are now 6 games up in the NL West. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 4 in a row. The Giants are in second place at 6 games back. And then looking at the wild card standings, again, as we're getting close to the end of the season here, and the AL wild card picture, you got the Rays with a comfortable lead there for that top wild card spot. Again, they're still pushing for the division there. And then talking about teams you feel bad for, the Rays losing Shane McClanahan for the rest of the year. Oh, they've already lost Drew Rasmussen this year. The Rays have just been decimated with huge pitching injuries this year. You really hate to see that. The Astros have the second wild card spot at the moment, up on a game and a half up on the Blue Jays, who have that final wild card spot. The Mariners are the closest there in the AL wild card race, as they are a game and a half back again after going 9-1 in their last 10. The Red Sox 4.5 back, and the Yankees 5 games back. In the NL wild card picture, you got the Phillies with the top spot again, as they've been playing good baseball lately. You got the Giants just a game behind them, and then the Marlins. You got 3 NL East teams in the postseason right now. The season ended right this very minute, but the Cubs are just a half game back. The Cubs and the Reds are just a half game back of the Marlins for that final wild card spot. You got the Diamondbacks 2.5 out, and the Padres 4.5 games out. So those are your standings right now as we record this on a Thursday afternoon. Again, some really good races there. Braves still got a really good lead in the National League East, so feeling very comfortable about that. Now, I want to go through some league awards. Again, there's about 2 months left in the season. I wanted to give you an update on who I think the front runners are for the major awards at the end of the season. In the American League right now, it's pretty easily Shohei Ohtani. I can't imagine anybody other than Shohei Ohtani winning this award right now. It would take a lot for that to happen. So Shohei Ohtani, clearly the favorite in the American League. I don't even know who would be second. Maybe Kyle Tucker, Luis Robert right now, if you look at the American League pitcher. But again, it's going to be Shohei all day long. I think that is a no-brainer at this point. I think he's going to be the runaway to win that award, as he should be. I mean, what he's doing on both sides is just absolutely incredible. We've never seen it before. Now, on the National League side, I think it's pretty easily going to be Ronald Acuna Jr., but you can make an argument for some others if you want to. That argument might be wrong, but you can make an argument. Freddie Freeman certainly right there in the discussion. Matt Olson, Mookie Betts as well. I think those are your top 4. Crazy. 2 of those players each play for the same team. You got Freeman and Betts with the Dodgers, and Acuna and Olson with the Braves. Man, if those 2 teams meet up in the NLCS, that's going to be a lot of fun. But I think those are pretty clearly your front runners in the National League. And again, I still think it's Ronald. Just what he's doing right now is historic, both with the combination of he's hitting 340, he's approaching 30 home runs, he's already got well over 50 steals. What he's doing in the power and speed department is pretty incredible. So he's pretty clearly the front runner for me in the National League as well. But I'm sure some out there can make an argument for others. Now, on the pitching side of things, in the American League, I think it's Kevin Gausman. The Braves fans probably aren't going to like to hear that. He leads all pitchers in FanGraph WAR at 4.4. He has a FIP of 2.72. He's striking out 11.85 per inning this year with Toronto. So I think it's Kevin Gausman. And then in the National League, I think both of these races are wide open. I'd probably go with Zach Gallen right now, if I had to. 11-5 on the year, 24 starts, just a 9.44 K per nine, but a 1.68 walk per nine, really good, 3.37 ERA, and just a 3.15 whip. He has 4 F4 according to Fangraphs. Wheeler actually has more F4, but I probably would still go with Gallen at this point. Again, I think it's a toss-up in both leagues. Again, I know it's a long shot now with the way that Strider's pitched here lately, but if he could ever get that ERA down, he has all the other metrics to just kind of run away with this award, honestly, if you were to go on a hot stretch here to end the season. But I think those would be your AL and NL Cy Young winners at this point of the season. If the season did end today, that's probably who it would be. On the NL Rookie of the Year side of things, what Matt McLain's doing for the Reds, I think is pretty incredible. Corbin Carroll, though, may still get that award, but I think it's a race between those two right now. I think Carroll's kind of cooled off a little bit. Matt McLain has the higher OPS at this point, but Corbin Carroll being there from the start of the season kind of gives him a little bit of an advantage in the National League. In the American League, I'll be honest, I haven't paid much attention to that side of things at this point. It's probably going to be a pitcher, if I had to guess right now, and just go with somebody from the American League side of things. But nobody really stands out in the American League. Let me know who you think would be your American League Rookie of the Year right now. I know coming into the season, there were a lot of people talking about Gunnar Henderson maybe winning that award. You know, he hasn't had the best season, but he's kind of come on here as of late. But let me know your thoughts. Who would you pick for these awards? Again, for the Manager of the Year, last time I did this, I picked Skip Schumacher, but they've kind of faded a little bit here in the second half. I don't know if I'd go with him at this point. Again, I think, even Torey Lovello of the Diamondbacks, who I think was another manager I noticed at that or mentioned at that point, they've kind of faded back a little bit. If the Cubs come back and win the NL Central, I think David Ross is certainly a good candidate for it. In the National League, I think in the American League, you got to go with you got to go with Bruce Bochy, I think, of the Rangers and what they're doing. I know they've spent a lot of money, but still everything's kind of come together for them over there. I think he's a pretty good candidate there in the American League. But let me know your thoughts. Who would you pick to win these awards right now if the season ended today? Again, we got 2 months left in the season, so a lot of stuff could still change. But I think for the most part, you got a pretty good idea of who finalists are going to be, at least for those for the MVP and Cy Young awards. I think you have a really good idea of who it's going to be at that point. Kodai Senga is one in the National League I didn't mention, who maybe the Braves are going to see this weekend. He's had a really good season. I hate the fact that those guys are considered rookies coming in who've been pitching professionally for a long time, but I think he has a really good shot as well for Rookie of the Year. But again, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Also, a little bit of news from around the league. Michael Lorenzen with a no-hitter on Wednesday night. Braves fans certainly don't want to hear that after a lot of fans wanted him at the trade deadline, didn't get him. I said when the trade happened, though, Phillies gave a pretty good prospect for him. I think it was like their 5th or 6th ranked overall prospect, probably somebody similar to a Vaughn Grissom, which maybe you would have given up Vaughn Grissom for Michael Lorenzen. And look, if you got another year of control, which I think he has a team option for next year, then maybe that makes sense. But that was about the level of player that the Phillies gave up for him. And then again, it comes down to how, the Tigers viewed that package, which player they liked better. We're not going to get into all of that. Either way, Phillies have him. He's been really good since they got him. Braves starting pitching has been struggling, so it makes it feel a lot worse that they weren't able to acquire him. But he did throw a no-hitter. Want to make sure I mention that as we talk about what's going on around the league. Also, there's a situation with the Orioles suspending their broadcaster for, I still don't know why, but that's been a big topic around the league as well. So that's your Through the League Thursday segment. Hopefully you enjoy that. If there's anything else you want to talk about, let me know down in the comment section below. But next, we'll turn our attention to New York as this long road trip continues. It's gotten off to a really rough start for the Braves. Can they turn things around in New York? We'll discuss that next. Braves head up to New York for Friday night. Will be the 7:10 p.m. Eastern first pitch against the Mets. Catch every pitch of the Braves hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. Not a lot of news to talk about as you had the afternoon game on Thursday, but the Braves are heading up to New York for a 4-game series. And when this game got rained out and rescheduled for this series earlier in the year, a lot of people pointing this series, they thought it would be a big, momentum point in the season as these two teams were expected to kind of battle it out for the NL East. That is no longer the case. As I mentioned earlier, the Mets 20 games back in the division. They sold off everybody. The trade deadline, no more Scherzer, no more Verlander. Team looks a lot different, and they've been playing pretty poorly since that. But more than anything, this is the World Series for the Mets right here. They want more than anything to try to take it to the Braves, especially with the way the Braves have been struggling here lately. They can kind of smell blood in the water. Whatever kind of good feelings they can have from this season, they will try to get out of this series against the Braves. So I imagine it's going to be a tough one for them. They're going to have to bring their A game there in New York in a 4-game series. It's going to be Charlie Morton versus Tyler McGill on Friday night. McGill, a 5.45 ERA coming into the contest on Friday night. For Charlie Morton, again, got to be more consistent. We just haven't seen it here lately. That's what you're looking for with Charlie Morton. Again, it's that consistency. The stuff is there. The stuff's still really good. I mean, you're talking middle to upper 90s fastball, one of the best curveballs in all of baseball. But if he's not commanding that fastball and he's not getting the chases on that curveball, it becomes a really long day for Charlie Morton. So just looking for consistency on him, being able to locate that fastball to get ahead and then go to that curveball against this Mets team who typically doesn't chase a lot. I honestly have no idea what this Mets team looks like at this point. Pitchers might not either, so it might be a little bit of an adjustment for them. But either way, I'm hyper focused on Charlie Morton and his start, the location of that fastball, and then using the curveball off of it to get those swings and misses, to get those chases. That's what you want here from Charlie Morton. Hopefully the Braves can get off to a good start. With the way the pitching is right now, it's going to be a tough road trip. It's going to be a tough weekend until they can get a start or two where guys are able to give them 6-7 innings and really kind of reset this bullpen. It's going to be really tough for Brian Snitker to manage. You got the doubleheader on Saturday. You're going to have to bring somebody up to start that game. Probably going to be either Winans or Soroka. How long are they going to give you? At some point, one of these starters is going to have to really need multiple starters to give them length in a game. You try to sneak it out with Bryce Elder on Thursday. It ends up costing you that game potentially as he gives up 2 more runs. But at some point, one of these starters is going to have to step up and give them some innings. Hopefully it'll be the veteran Charlie Morton on Friday night. But in order to do that, he's got to locate that fastball. Can't run up a high pitch count. Can't let innings get away from him. Can't hit batters. Can't give up home runs. We got to see a better, more consistent Charlie Morton starting on Friday night in New York. Again, it'll be Morton versus McGill on Friday night in New York, 7:10 p.m. Eastern start time. Catch every pitch of the Braves hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of each and every day. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube at Locked On Braves. And make sure you subscribe there. Make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. Follow me on Twitter at ShortstopBall. And also make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.